In this lecture, we are going to discuss the various applications of Gauss law. So Gauss law, it is used to find the electric field intensity due to various system of charges, and we will see what are those various systems. So in the previous lecture, we had discussed what is Gauss law and we saw the mathematical formula of Gauss law. So if we have a system of charge, let's say we have a q charge which is present in space, and first of all we will draw a Gaussian surface, and this surface, it is a closed surface. So keep in mind, in Gauss law, if you are drawing a Gaussian surface, then that surface, it must be a closed surface. So you can draw a sphere, you can draw a cylinder, you can draw a cube or a cuboid. So keep in mind that surface, it must be a closed surface. So let's say around this charge q, if you draw a closed surface, so you can draw a Gaussian surface of any shape. So this is any random shape which we have drawn, and keep in mind this is the closed surface, and this closed surface, it encloses this charge q. So according to Gauss law, if we have a Gaussian surface, let's say this surface is represented by capital S. So the flux which is linked with this surface, because this is a charge q, and electric field, it will be pointed radially outwards for this charge q if this charge is positive, and if this charge is negative, the electric field lines, they will be pointing radially inwards. So there will be electric field lines which will be crossing this surface. So those electric field lines, the number of electric field lines which are crossing this surface, it is called as flux. So the flux which is linked with this surface, so flux which is linked with this Gaussian surface, it is equal to, first of all, flux is given by the dot product of electric field intensity with the surface area element, and we are talking about a closed surface, so we will do a integration over vector E dot ds, and this will be a closed surface integration. So this is the definition of flux. So flux, it is the number of lines which are crossing the surface which we are considering, and here the surface which we are considering, it is a closed surface. So this flux is given by vector E dot ds with its integration, surface integration, and this surface integration is a closed surface integration. So this is equal to, so Gauss law, it states that the electric flux linked with the closed Gaussian surface, it is equal to the charge which is enclosed by the surface. So charge enclosed by the surface is equal to q divided by epsilon naught, provided this charge is kept in vacuum. So when this charge is present in vacuum, then we have 1 by epsilon naught times q. So the flux which is linked with this closed surface is given by q by epsilon naught. Now if this surface, it encloses various number of charges. Here we have drawn only one charge, here we have only one charge. So if instead of one charge, if we have number of charges inside this Gaussian surface, so those charges are present inside this Gaussian surface. So let's say q1, q2, q3 up to qn charges, they all are present inside this surface. Then the electric field lines will be crossing this Gaussian surface in that case also. So what will be the electric flux in that case? So electric flux linked with this Gaussian surface will be equal to, it will be equal to vector E dot ds. So this is the general definition of flux and its closed surface integration, because here in Gauss law we always talk about a closed surface. So this will be equal to, so the simple formula of Gauss law is q by epsilon naught, and here we have n number of charges. So this will be equal to q1 by epsilon naught plus q2 by epsilon naught plus q3 by epsilon naught, and so on up to qn by epsilon naught. So this will be the flux linked with the closed Gaussian surface when we have large number of charges. So if we have more than one number of charges, so in that case the formula will be the flux will be equal to q1 by epsilon naught plus q2 by epsilon naught up to so on. If we have n number of charges, so last term will be qn by epsilon naught. So this can be written in terms of summation. So 1 by epsilon naught, it is common in all the terms, and these q1 plus q2 plus q3 up to so on up to qn, this can be written as summation over qi, where I goes from 1 to n. So this is the general relation we have written. If we have n number of charges, so we have to sum q1, q2, q3 up to qn, so that we have written just in the form of summation. So summation, it is over qi, where I goes from 1 to n. So up to how many number of charges you have, let it be if there are 3 number of charges or 4 number of charges, so accordingly the n will vary. Now this case that we had done, it was for discrete number of charges. So we have q1, q2, q3, q4 up to so on. So those are the discrete charges. But what if we have a continuous charge distribution? So instead of discrete charges, let's say if you have a volume which encloses a charge. So if you have a charge which is present in a volume, so that will be a volume charge distribution. So if instead of discrete charges, if you have continuous charge distribution, so in the previous lectures we have discussed what is continuous charge distribution. So it is of 3 types. One is line charge distribution, that is the charge is distributed on a single line. Second is the surface charge distribution, that is the charge is distributed on the surface. Then last one is the volume charge distribution, the charge is distributed in a particular volume. So instead of q1, q2, q3 up to so on, instead of these discrete charges, what if we have continuous charge distribution? So in that case, the concept will remain the same, that is the flux which is crossing the Gaussian surface in case of continuous charge distribution. So first of all, what we will do, we will draw a Gaussian surface which will enclose this continuous charge distribution. Here we had drawn a Gaussian surface which enclosed the discrete charges q1, q2, q3 and so on. So in this we had drawn a Gaussian surface which enclosed the discrete charges. So in this case also we will draw a Gaussian surface which will enclose these continuous charge distribution. So the flux which will be linked to that particular Gaussian surface, it will be equal to surface integration of vector E over a closed surface. It will be equal to 1 by epsilon naught. So 1 by epsilon naught, it will remain as it is, but instead of q1, q2, q3 up to so on, what we have, continuous charges. So you will have a continuous charge distribution. So we had already done, if we have continuous charge distribution instead of discrete charges, then this summation, it is changed to integral. So when we have a continuous charge distribution, so we have to do the summation of all the charges. So here also we will have to do the summation over all the charges which are present. If they are present on a line, if they are present on a surface, or they are present on a volume, just what we have to do is we have to do the summation. But in the continuous charge distribution, we cannot do the summation of charges. Here we had a discrete charges, so we could do simply the summation q1 plus q2, q3 up to so on. But here we have a continuous charge distribution, so we cannot just sum the individual charges. So what we do is we change this summation into integral. So this summation, it is changed to integral, and inside the integral we will have dq. So dq is the small charge element. So that small charge element, it can be taken on the line if we have a line charge distribution. So this dq charge, it can be taken on a surface if we have a surface charge distribution, and this dq charge, it can be taken in a volume if we have a volume charge distribution. So this dq is the small charge element which is taken on the system, on whatever system we have. Then we do the integration over this small charge element. So that will give you the total charge which is present on that system. Here also we have the total charge which was present in the system. So this integration will give us the total charge present inside the Gaussian surface. So the formula of flux for continuous charge distribution is given by this form. So let's say if you have a line charge distribution. So let's say you have a line charge distribution. So here we have lambda. Here what we define is lambda. Lambda is the line charge density. So line charge density is nothing but equal to the total charge divided by total length, or you can say lambda is the charge which is present in unit length. So this is how we define the line charge distribution. Line charge distribution is the charge which is present in unit length. So dq is the charge which is present in dl amount of length. So if you divide this line charge into small line elements, so let's say the length of every element is dl. So the charge on this dl length will be given by dq, and what you have to do is integration over this dq. That will give you the total charge on this whole system. So in Gauss law, what we have the total charge on the system. So for that we have to do the integration over the charge dq. So here dq is the charge which is present in dl length. So what will be dq? So dq will be equal to lambda into dl. So dq will be equal to lambda into dl, because lambda is the charge present in unit length and we want to find the charge which is present in dl length. So that will be equal to lambda into dl. So that will be the charge on this small line element. So this integral, it can be changed to 1 by epsilon naught integration of lambda into dl for the case of line charge distribution. So this formula is for the case of line charge distribution. Now what if we have a surface charge distribution? So for that this formula will get modified, and what you will have 1 by epsilon naught into integration over the charge. So what will be the charge dq in the case of surface charge distribution? So dq will be equal to sigma into ds. So if you have a surface charge distribution, so if you will take a small patch on the surface, so let's say the surface that you are taking, small surface element, that is equal to ds. So what will be the charge on this ds element? It will be equal to sigma into ds. So sigma, it is the surface charge density. So this concept we have already done. How do we write the continuous charge distribution? So you can look into that lecture. So the small charge distribution for the case of small charge element, for the case of line charge distribution, is given by lambda into dl, and dq for the case of surface charge distribution is given by sigma into ds, and we have to do integration over all the charge. And here what we have, surface element. So surface, it is two dimensional, so we do surface integral. And last one is if you have a volume charge distribution, so in that case the flux will be equal to 1 by epsilon naught into volume integration of rho into dv. So if you have confusion in how we have written these lambda into dl, sigma into ds, rho into dv, so you can follow the lecture in which we have discussed the continuous charge distributions. Now what if the charge is present outside the closed Gaussian surface? Here we had drawn the Gaussian surface and charge, it was present inside the Gaussian surface. Now what if the charge is present outside the Gaussian surface? So this is the Gaussian surface and it is a closed surface. So this charge q, it is present outside this Gaussian surface. So electric field lines, they will be crossing this Gaussian surface. So we are considering this charge is positive. So you can consider a negative charge also. So the concept will remain the same. Now if you have a positive charge, the lines, they will move radially outwards. So what will be the Gauss law in that case? So Gauss law, it states that the flux is equal to the total charge which is enclosed inside the Gaussian surface. So flux is nothing but equal to vector E dot ds. So this is the general definition of flux. So this is equal to the total charge enclosed by the Gaussian surface. So now this is the Gaussian surface. So total charge which is enclosed inside this Gaussian surface, that is equal to 0, because charge is present outside the Gaussian surface. So here we are considering a special case when the charge is present outside the Gaussian surface. So in that case, the flux linked with that Gaussian surface will be equal to 0, because total charge enclosed inside that Gaussian surface is equal to 0. So Q1 plus Q2 plus Q3, or you can say Q on the right hand side, is equal to 0, because Q is the charge which is enclosed inside the Gaussian surface only. So Gauss law, it takes into account only those charges which are present inside the Gaussian surface. So if the charge is present outside, so that flux linked with that Gaussian surface will be equal to 0. So you can also see what is flux. Flux is nothing but the number of lines which are crossing the Gaussian surface. So flux is nothing but the lines which are crossing the Gaussian surface. Now here you can see we have drawn 4 lines. So the 4 lines, they go inwards. First of all, they go inwards in this Gaussian surface, and then they go out of this Gaussian surface. So 4 number of lines, they are moving inwards, and the same 4 number of lines, they are moving outwards. So the flux which is entering the surface is equal to the flux which is going outside the surface. So total flux linked with the surface will be equal to 0, because the inward flux is taken as negative, and the flux which is going outside the surface, it is taken as positive. And you can see the 4 lines, they are crossing, or they are moving inwards this Gaussian surface, and the same 4 number of lines, they are moving outwards. So the outward flux is same as that of the inward flux. So total flux linked with this Gaussian surface, it must be 0. And according to Gauss law also, the flux linked with this Gaussian surface, it has come out to be equal to 0, because Gauss law, it takes into account only the charges which are present inside this Gaussian surface. So no matter whatever charge is present outside the Gaussian surface, it will not be considered. Only the charge which is present inside the Gaussian surface will be considered. Now next case is when the charge is placed in a medium. Here we had talked about the charge, it was present in vacuum. So in that case we had 1 by epsilon naught times Q. Now what if the charge is placed in a medium whose dielectric constant is given by K? Now dielectric constant K of a medium is equal to the ratio of the permittivity of the medium to the permittivity of vacuum. So K is equal to epsilon divided by epsilon naught. So the flux linked with the Gaussian surface for that particular charge. So if this whole system is placed in a medium whose dielectric constant is K, or you can say whose permittivity is equal to epsilon. So if this whole system, it is present in such a medium, then flux linked with this Gaussian surface will be equal to the same formula, vector E dot ds with its closed surface integration. So this will be equal to Q, the charge which is present inside the Gaussian surface, divided by epsilon. So instead of epsilon naught, what we will have? Epsilon. So from this formula you can see epsilon is equal to K times epsilon naught. So it will be equal to K times epsilon naught. So this will be the formula for the flux linked with any Gaussian surface which encloses a charge Q which is present inside a medium of dielectric constant K. Now we are going to look at the first application of Gauss law. So first of all, we are going to find electric field intensity due to an infinite line charge distribution using Gauss law. So this derivation we have already found using the general formulas, using the general Coulomb's law in the previous lectures. But here we are going to find the electric field intensity due to an infinite line charge distribution using Gauss law. So using the Gauss law, we will find the electric field intensity. So let's suppose here we have a line charge distribution. So charge, it is present on this line. So this line charge distribution, it extends up to minus infinity as well as it extends to plus infinity. So this is an infinite line charge distribution, and we are interested in finding electric field intensity at this point P. So this is the point P where we are interested to find electric field intensity due to this infinite line charge distribution. So let's say the lambda, it is the line charge density. So lambda is the line charge density of this system. So this is equal to total charge divided by total length. So let's say if you consider only this length of this infinite line charge distribution. So if you consider only this length, let's say this length is equal to small l. So length which we are considering is only small l, and let's say the charge which is present in this length is equal to Q. So charge present in this small length L is equal to Q. So lambda will be given by Q divided by length. So it will be equal to small q, which is the charge present in this length, divided by length. So length is given by this, small length is given by small l. So this is how we define line charge density. So this is defined as charge present in unit length. So that is how we define line charge density. So to find electric field intensity at this point P, first of all we have to draw Gaussian surface. So we have to do the derivation using Gauss law. So in Gauss law, first of all, the first step it is to draw a Gaussian surface. So in this system we will draw a Gaussian surface, and that Gaussian surface will be a cylinder. So in this case, for infinite line charge distribution, the Gaussian surface that we will draw, it will be a cylinder. So here we have drawn a Gaussian surface which is of cylindrical shape. So Gaussian surface, it will be cylindrical, and what will be the length of this cylinder? Let's say that length is equal to small l. So small l is the length of the cylinder, and what is the radius? It is equal to small r. So this is the observation point where we want to find the electric field intensity, and this point is at a distance of small r from the line charge distribution. So this is the perpendicular distance of this observation point from this line charge distribution. So therefore we had drawn a cylinder of radius r. So we have drawn a cylinder of radius r and whose length is equal to small l. So this line charge distribution, it is of infinite length. So we have just taken the small length of this charge distribution and we have drawn a Gaussian surface whose length is equal to small l. And keep in mind, this Gaussian surface, it is only the imaginary surface. It is just the imaginary surface which we have drawn. So what in reality we have? What we have is only this infinite line charge distribution and this observation point where we want to find electric field intensity. So to find electric field intensity, we have drawn this imaginary cylindrical Gaussian surface whose radius is r and whose length is equal to small l. So P is the observation point where we want to find electric field intensity. So using Gauss law. Now here this Gaussian surface is cylindrical, and this Gaussian surface you can clearly see that it is a closed surface. So this cylinder, it will have this surface on the left hand side which will be circular surface, and on the right hand side S3 surface. So this will also be a circular surface, as well as we will have this surface S1 which is the curved surface, or you can say this is the curved portion of the cylinder. So using Gauss law, the flux which will be linked with this Gaussian surface. So we have drawn this closed Gaussian surface which is a cylinder. So electric field lines, they will be passing through this Gaussian surface due to the charge which is present on this line. So what will be the flux which will be linked with this Gaussian surface? So it will be equal to vector E dot product with ds vector over a closed Gaussian surface, and this Gaussian surface is cylindrical in this particular case. So that is equal to charge divided by epsilon naught. So this Gaussian surface, it encloses only this charge, the charge which is present only on this line, as we had done previously, that whatever charge which is present outside the Gaussian surface, it is not considered in Gauss law. Only the charge which is present inside the Gaussian surface is considered in Gauss law. So flux which is linked with this Gaussian surface, it will be given by charge which is present inside the Gaussian surface. So what is the charge present inside this Gaussian surface? So let's say q length, as we had considered earlier, that q amount of charge is present in L amount of length. So here we have L amount of length. So what will be the charge present in this whole region of length? It will be equal to q. So flux linked with this Gaussian surface, it is equal to charge enclosed, and what is the charge enclosed that we have supposed? It is equal to q divided by epsilon naught. So q, it can be written as lambda into L. So q, it can be simply written as lambda into L divided by epsilon naught. So here what we want to find is electric field intensity. We are interested in finding electric field intensity at point P due to this whole charge distribution. So what we want to solve is this factor. So we want to solve this factor, and we want to take out electric field out of this factor, and we want to find the formula for the electric field intensity using Gauss law. So this is how we have used the Gauss law. So we have found the flux is equal to lambda into L divided by epsilon naught. So now the next step will be to evaluate this integral. So we have the surface integral of vector E over the closed Gaussian surface. So we want to find this integral. So this closed Gaussian surface is nothing but this cylinder that we have drawn. So this closed Gaussian surface is nothing but this cylinder, and this cylinder, it has three surfaces. It has S1, S2 surface and S3 surface. So when you will combine all these three surfaces, that will make up a total cylinder. So this surface integration over the closed surface, over this closed cylinder, so we have to evaluate this integral. So to evaluate this surface integration, we will separate this whole surface, this closed cylinder, we will separate this closed cylinder into three parts. So this closed surface, it can be divided into three open surface integrals. So this closed surface integration, it can be divided into three open surface integrals. So this whole surface is capital S. So capital S surface, it can be divided into S1 plus S2 and S3. So keep in mind, this capital S surface, it is a closed surface, whereas this S1, S2 and S3 surfaces, these are open surfaces. So this closed surface integration over S surface, it can be divided into open surface integral over S1 and plus open surface integral over S2 plus open surface integral over S3. So this left hand side, the integration, surface integration of the electric field intensity over the closed Gaussian surface, it has been divided into three open surfaces. So now the task will be to evaluate these three surface integrals. So then we will put the formula that we will get after evaluating this term. So we will put that formula over here, and then we will find the electric field intensity. So in this case we have infinite line charge distribution. So we are supposing at point P, the electric field intensity, it is radially outwards. So we are considering a positive charge which is present on this line. So we have a positive line charge density. So we will have a positive line charge distribution in this case. So due to the positive charges, the electric field at this point P, it will be radially outwards. So at this point, the electric field intensity, the direction will be radially outwards. So this will be the electric field intensity direction at point P, or you can say at the curved surface S1 and at the surface S2. So let's say on this surface S2, if you take a small surface element on the surface S2, if you take a small surface element, so surface area, the surface area vector, it will be pointing perpendicular to the surface. So surface area vector, it is always pointing perpendicular to the surface. So the ds vector for the case of S2 surface, it will be pointing towards the left hand side. And electric field intensity, as we had already told that the electric field intensity, it is radially outward. So at this point, the surface area vector, it is pointing towards the left hand side. The electric field intensity, it will be pointing in the upward direction only. So it will be pointing radially outwards. At this point P, so if you will take a small surface area element, so small surface area element, it will be pointing in the radially outward direction. So for the curved surface S1, at any point on this curved surface S1, the electric field intensity will be pointing radially outward, as well as the ds vector, it will point radially outward. Now for the case of S3 surface, if you take a small patch on this surface, so ds vector, it will be pointing towards the right hand side, and electric field intensity, as we have said, it always points radially outwards. So for S2 and S3 surface, the angle between E vector and ds vector, it is 90 degree, whereas E vector, it is parallel to ds vector for the case of, for any point on this surface S1. So for S1, which is the curved portion of the surface, so curved portion of the cylinder, so at this S1 surface, at any point, electric field is parallel to ds vector, whereas for S2 and S3 surfaces, the E vector, it is perpendicular to ds vector. So E vector, it will be perpendicular to ds vector. So now we have separated, what we had done was we had separated this surface integration into three open surface integrals. So this closed surface integration, it can be divided into three open surface integrals, which we had written as open surface integral over S1 plus open surface integral over S2 plus open surface integral over S3. So this surface integration, it is equated to lambda into L divided by epsilon naught. So these three open surface integrals, their summation, it will be equal to lambda into L divided by epsilon naught. So now we will evaluate these integrals. So as we had said, for the S1 surface, which is the curved portion of the cylinder, so for the S1 surface, E is parallel to ds. So on solving E dot ds, what we will have? Magnitude of E into magnitude of ds into cos of angle between these two vectors. So we are using the property of dot product. So A dot B vector is equal to AB cos of theta, where theta is the angle between A vector and B vector. So here we have the A vector as E vector, and B vector, instead of B vector, we have ds vector. So E vector dot product with ds vector, it can be written as E ds cos of theta, and for the case of S1 surface, E vector, it is always parallel to ds vector, so here we have cos of 0. Now in the other cases, S2 and S3, we will have EDS cos 90, and here also we will have EDS cos 90 degree, which will be equal to lambda into L divided by epsilon naught. So this integral, it will be equal to 0 because we have cos 90 and cos 90 is equal to 0, and this integral will also be equal to 0. So what we will be left with is nothing but EDS with its surface integration over this S1 surface only. So this is only the curved portion of the cylinder, where the surface integral over S2 and S3 surfaces. Over this surface, yellow portion of the surface, so on these two surfaces this integral will vanish, and the reason is the electric field intensity is perpendicular to the area element for this S2 and S3 surfaces. So this first surface integration, it will be equal to EDS with its surface integration over S1, and that will be equal to lambda into L divided by epsilon naught. So E electric field, it is constant over all the points which are at a distance of r. So at all the points which are at the same distance from this line charge density, so the electric field intensity will remain same for all those points. So E, it can be taken outside because it is constant of the integration. So integration will be just on the small area element, and this integration is over this curved surface. So that is equal to lambda into L divided by epsilon naught. So here we have integration over the curved surface. So this will be equal to nothing but the total curved area of the cylinder. So this integration is nothing but the curved surface area of the cylinder. And curved surface area of the cylinder, you already know the formula. It is equal to 2 pi r into the length of the cylinder, and length of the cylinder is nothing but L. So this is the formula for the curved surface area of a cylinder. So curved surface area of the cylinder will be equal to 2 pi r into L. So here you have only the curved portion of the cylinder, whereas on all other surfaces S2 and S3, the integral, it has been put equal to 0. So this integral, it will be equal to 2 pi r into L, which is nothing but the curved surface area of the cylinder, and that will be equal to lambda into L divided by epsilon naught. So from this formula you can find the formula of electric field intensity at this point P, which is at a distance of r from the line charge distribution. So electric field intensity, it can be taken on the left hand side, so L will cancel with L, so E will be equal to lambda divided by 2 pi epsilon naught into R. So this is the magnitude of the electric field intensity. Magnitude of the electric field intensity at a point R from the line charge distribution whose line charge density is lambda. And if the line charge density, it is a positive charge, if positive charge is distributed, then electric field will be pointing radially outwards. So in that case you will have R cap, and if the electric field intensity, if the charge which is distributed, if that charge is negative charge, then electric field intensity, it will be pointing radially inwards. So in that case you will have minus R cap. The direction will be minus R cap of the electric field intensity. The magnitude, it will be equal to lambda divided by 2 pi epsilon naught R. So as you will move away from this line charge density, as the R will increase, as the observation point it is moved away from the line charge, the electric field intensity, it will decrease.